everyone, it's Nemesis here. Sorry if you can hear the heater, it's really cold in Australia right now, so yeah. I'm coming to you right now with what might seem like a weird number for a top ranking list. I've done top 25, top 15, top 10. I don't know if I've done a top 7 before, because bringing back the top ranking list videos has been a bit of a recent development. There's a simple reason it's only a top 7. I'm just not into Marvel and DC battles as much as I once was. I get a lot of the ideas in my 200 list were actually fairly decent ones, either characters with a lot of similarities or just straight up clones, but honestly, I've grown somewhat tired of these series battling each other over and over again. Do you know that DC has never lost a battle against any series aside from Marvel? Yeah. Whether or not you think those are accurate is entirely up to you. That's not the point of this video. A lot of the battles on my 200 are street level characters fighting, flying bricks fighting, or abstract entities of which the physical plane does not do justice to their full forms fighting. And those just don't interest me anymore. We've gotten so many flying bricks and street level characters fighting, and if they did Marvel vs DC more, I'd like to see them go beyond. Despite that, there is at least one flying brick fight here, but these are the only 7 matches I would legitimately be very hyped to see. And funnily enough, most of these have a character I just don't give a flying fuck about, but because of the interesting matchup, I'd like to see it. Before that though, I want to talk about 6 battles some people might be expecting to see that are very popular, that I don't give a shit about. First off, the Lizard vs Killer Croc. This is a popular, often requested Marvel vs DC counterparts battle. And I don't give a shit. Ignoring that Killer Croc's head looks less like a crocodile than the Lizard's, there's little about these characters that I really care about. Honestly, I get the appeal. They're ferocious, they're vicious, and blah blah blah, but we already got Beast vs Goliath, which is the same thing, just this one would be in the sewer instead. Also, Killer Croc one-shot Lucifer Morningstar, so it's a stomp. Speaking of which, the next one is Lucifer Morningstar vs the Beyonder. This one is sort of a stand-in for all of the abstracts versus abstracts fight. Now, I know I like Galactus vs Unicron, but Galactus is not an abstract outside of the Lifebringer, and Unicron's avatars are not abstracts, so you could have an actual fight before original Unicron or the Lifebringer are involved. The reason I don't like these abstract battles are, how the fuck are you going to convey their power in animation? Even if Lucifer Morningstar visually obliterated the entire multiverse, that would not even come close to being an infinitely small portion of what he could accomplish. But also, the conclusion for this fight would be dead boring. These characters are beyond the very concepts of stats. That ridiculous calc someone did for Lucifer, it's worthless. A ridiculous lowball, as even stated by the calculator themselves. Because if you ever put a number on the strength, speed, or durability of these characters, even if you made those stats infinity, you would be heavily lowballing them. These characters sit at infinite planes of reality and existence. We could not even comprehend the limits of what they could do, if those limits exist at all. And the conclusion itself would just be, Beyonder said he's infinite dimensional, and the Endless are infinite dimensional, and Dream said Lucifer was stronger than them, so Beyonder is infinite, but Lucifer is more infinite. Or if there's some stupid scaling that makes Beyonder high universal, then it's just, Beyonder scales to this guy, who's beyond characters who are beyond infinite planes of reality. And that's it. Strength, speed, durability, their actual powers, experience, skill, stamina, none of that matters. Because it just doesn't matter. All of that is beyond infinity. It's a boring matchup because the entire discussion could be summed up in one sentence of, this character is more infinite than the other. Because nothing else matters. The next one is Thor vs Shazam. Now, it humors me that Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel and Thor vs Shazam were the requests, but we got these instead. Anyway, this battle is boring. For 2 reasons. First off, yeah, it's just 2 flying bricks. And secondly, objectively, Shazam wins. We know this. Thor's given stats were very high lifting strength, 100 billion times the speed of light in Ghost Rider vs Lobo, and planet level durability. Now with Wonder Woman in She-Ra vs Wonder Woman, they kept pretty much the exact same numbers as they did in Thor vs Wonder Woman, with the exception of actually calculating the speed this time. They would do the same for Thor, with the exception of using the speed they gave in Ghost Rider vs Lobo or a higher one. Shazam, however, has better numbers. Here they are. Keeping in mind Thor's attacking comes from them saying he can destroy planets. And as you can see, yeah, Shazam is fucking stomping hard. Number 4, Hulk vs Solomon Grundy. I don't even get this matchup. How are they related at all? Bruce Banner is a scientist who got into an accident saving someone's life, and he got irradiated, and he turned into a ball of hulking rage with ever-increasing strength every time he's pissed off, while Grundy's just a bloke that got murdered and became a zombie. Yet they're big and muscular. Does that really constitute Hulk being a rip-off, or them even being similar? I don't want another fight like this, but if you were to bring Hulk back, I'd take Hulk versus Damage. Then there's Black Adam versus Doctor Doom. I get it's thematic. Both are magic-wielding, godlike kings of fictional countries that, despite being villains that want to conquer all, legitimately care about their homelands. But I don't care. It's two flying bricks, and it doesn't interest me. I even like both of them. I just don't care. And finally, for the battles I don't want, the most controversial I'm going to be saying, Red Hood versus Winter Soldier. I get it. It's thematic, and they're both really cool characters. But it's just so boring. Red Hood is literally just a guy with guns, and Winter Soldier is a guy with guns and a super arm. Please, don't be the live-action fight this season, because that would just be the exact same as Nightwing versus Daredevil, but now they have guns. I don't think this battle is that interesting, because I can pretty much predict everything they'll do. There's no creative potential to go beyond what everyone expects. And before I get into the list, I'm going to talk about some fights that almost got on the list, but I'm just not that interested in. Swamp Thing vs. Man Thing is cool, but I don't care enough. Impossible Man vs. Mix is cool and has a lot of potential, but Bill Cipher would be a more interesting foe for Mix, and I mean, he curbs both of them anyway. And Mr. Fantastic vs. either Stretchy Boy, who has plenty of creative potential, but I'm not sure which one I like more, so I'm just confused about the matter. I mean, Plastic Man would be more entertaining, but Elongated Man would be more thematic. I don't know. Now let's quickly get into the top 7 battles I actually really like. Number 7. This one is a choice between two very similar battles. Combo Man vs. Composite Superman, and Super Adaptoid vs. Amazo. Amazo. Fuck off. I'm not keeping this in the... Both of these matchups involve a bunch of characters that have powers from other heroes. But if I had to choose between them, I'd go with Combo Man vs. Composite Superman. Yes, they are flying bricks. However, they have so many abilities that give it way more potential than Thor vs. Shazam, for instance. That's just Flying Brick plus Lightning, and Thor can throw Mjolnir. How exciting. Combo Man can fly, he has superhuman strength and optic laser, repulsor beams, control of magnetism, can shoot webbing, has the Spidey sense and sonar sense at once, can generate fire, presumably has Carnage's abilities, kinetic powers from Gambit, and even the power Cosmic. He likely can also travel between dimensions like Sentry, and has expert martial arts and weapon skill from Captain America and the Punisher. Composite Superman, meanwhile, the original, not the one made by Professor Ivo, he can increase and decrease its size, divide into 3 people at once, fire lightning, heat, light, and heat vision. He can change the weight of objects, eat anything, become invisible, turn into a giant ball, stretch his limbs like Elongated Man, shapeshift, has telepathy, X-ray vision, 12th level internet, magnetic powers, and the capacity to transmutate elements and phase through solid matter. Also, he has all the powers of Superman, but not Batman's fighting skill, funnily enough. The sheer amount of powers these two have is insane, and will result in an extremely unique and interesting battle with a lot of potential. So yeah, it could be a good fight. Also, shout out to Ducko from Galaxy Video for reminding me that Combo Man exists. And let's quickly promote him. I highly recommend hopping over to his and Max's channel, which I'll link in the description. It has less than 1,000 subscribers, which just morally isn't okay, and Galaxy Grudge Match is a really interesting and unique Versus series. You know how you could say Not Death Battle is unique amongst the majority of Versus series because it's a parody? This is unique amongst the majority of the Versus series as a scenario-based debate series. It's a debate based on who could perform better in a certain scenario. And if you like me, then you'll be happy to know I've not been on the show. Huan has though, and technically I'm right there in his section, so I kinda have been on the show. Haha. Check it out, in the description. Number 6. Starro vs. Shuma Gorath. I have heard this is a spectacular stomp, but honestly, this is such a stupid matchup that I love it. It's so funny to me. It's literally just a sea star and an octopus with a giant eyeball on them. That's the entire fight. I mean, yeah, okay, they can do crazy stuff. Shuma can just deny reality exists, and whether time or not is up for debate. While Starro has all of his parasitic clones and stuff, and he can make more of himself, so it'd be a cool fight, but to me, the hilarity of it is what I like. Number 5. Ant-Man vs. the Atom. This is the most likely to happen on this entire list. Ant-Man vs. the Atom is a battle that's thematic, interesting, and has a lot of potential. You might be thinking, how? Aren't they just flying bricks that can change size? I mean, Kinda. Ant-Man doesn't really fly, does he? He flies on an ant. But their powers are not as simple as just, lightning, or, lasers. Shrinking on its own has so much potential to be great. You could have a regular fight, a small fight, and a big boy fight all in one. Namely, the small fight has so much potential. They could alter their sizes at different intervals to utilize things like toys, sex toys, various inanimate objects, rocks, nails, I guess, whatever they could find. And then, once that's done, they could become giant and have a slower kaiju fight, utilizing cars, trucks, and buildings as baseball bats. Have one of them do the Pacific Rim boat thing too. There's so much potential, and that makes me happy. Number 4. Ego the Living Planet vs. Mogo. Just imagine this battle animated. Literally a planet with a face, and a planet with a big stripe and a tramp stamp, beating the crap out of each other. This battle would be on a scale only rivaled by Thanos vs. Darkseid and Galactus vs. Unicron. And it's an awesome battle. We have a giant Green Lantern that can light up the entire universe, and a planet that has won several times against Galactus. A planet that has beaten Galactus. That is surreal. And it'd be really interesting to see how they fight. Ego has all of his weird tentacles, his mental abilities, laser beams and shit, while Mogo has whatever he wants. He's a lantern. He can make planet-sized lantern constructs. And considering Ego can create humanoids to attack, you could even have Ego send some humanoids on Mogo, and we'll see how Mogo responds, whether he makes a giant fist to crush him, or changes his own environment, or uses his own inhabitants, like his space dolphins, to attack them. He could do any of that. There's a lot of potential, and it'd be by far one of the most unique, exciting matches Death Battle would ever have. Number 3. Clayface vs. Sandman. This is a popular battle that I really love. These two have so much potential. They're literally made of materials that can become whatever. Green Lanterns have a lot of potential, but they're limited to their imagination, what's physically possible, and having to have it come out of their rings. These guys are limited by the same things, but they don't need to worry about it coming out of the ring. They can make whatever they want, wherever they want, and just throw it out of their fucking nipples for who knows. You could once again have a kaiju fight like Ant-Man vs. the Atom, and have all sorts of weapons and powers. Of course, it comes down to more than just raw power, as both can definitely harm the other. It's not even a question. One's made of sand, one's made of clay. They can harm each other. But it comes down to who could actually kill the other, and how they can counter each other's abilities. Who is smarter, faster, who is more creative and more experienced. Because raw power isn't as important, this could be a really interesting matchup with a lot of potential. Did I say potential? A lot of potential. Epic. Number 2, Mysterio vs. Scarecrow. Remember what I said about the limitations of the last 2 battles? Well, with this one, imagination is the only one that still exists. When you can ignore the physical, you can have an extremely exciting animation with so much potential for vivid imagery and interesting animation. Heck, this is probably a battle where you could even work in a change in animation style midway. All bets are off with this one. There is more potential for a good animation here than almost any other death battles possible. It's amazing, I love the idea. Biff Weed brought it up to me, go check out his stuff too. It's a great idea. I honestly just never cared enough about either of them, and I kept on hearing Sinestro vs. Scarecrow, which I thought was really dumb. This one's a good idea. Number 1. This one is a personal one. I have little interest in either character, but thematically, they work very well. Marquis of Death vs. Superboy Prime. If you don't know, these two were both seemingly normal people from the real world. Clyde Wynkham lived in a world designated as our reality, with no other heroes. And this Clark Kent lived in a world where all of DC was nothing more than a set of comics, and he could even interact with the writers and editors of them. These two were both the only superpowered members of their worlds, and got involved in events with other universes. Clyde summoned 616 villains into his world, and Clark got involved in Crisis. The two were eventually placed into fake paradise worlds, where upon breaking out they became omnicidal maniacs. These two both possess incredible power. Marquis has multiverse level and above reality warping powers. He can just casually annihilate Doctor Doom, and use multiversal eternity as a weapon. Superboy Prime, meanwhile, obviously has all the Superman powers, and strength on par with pre-Crisis, but in my opinion, using him as the Time Trapper would be the best idea, as that is his strongest version. With incredible strength, he's easily multiversal. I don't think Superboy could beat Marquis, but the thematic nature of the matchup makes me happy. And I think it'd be great to have characters on a multiversal scale in Death Battle. Yes, they had Darkseid and Alien X and Thanos with the Gauntlet, but none of them were placed above Universal. So, this is a chance for them to finally place a multiverse-busting character at Multiversal. I can only hope, because the scale of this would be insane. Marquis could just summon an entire Justice League or an entire Avengers at Superboy Prime, who, true to being Superboy Prime, as either the Time Trapper or with the buff that allowed him to damage Monarch's armor, just take on all of them at once and beat them all down to get to Marquis. It would be fucking amazing. So that was my list. These are the 7 Marvel vs. DC Death Battle ideas that I really, really like. My personal endless, if you would. Funny how that works, that wasn't even intentional. And yeah, I get that some of these won't happen, and some of these will, but that's up to Death Battle. It's their show, they can do what they want. There are inevitably going to be battles that I just don't like happening. Not going to avoid that, no reason to get too annoyed. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day, everyone. Go check out Galaxy Video. Go subscribe to both Max and Ducko, and go watch Galaxy Grudge Match.